liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You're tapped in, so let's get right to it. So, as everyone have probably heard by now, Elon Musk is a trillionaire, and close on his heels are individuals like Jeff Bezos, Larry Fink. We have the Sam Altmans, the Jensen Huangs, Mark Zuckerberg, Alex Karp, Larry Ellison, Mark Andreessen, Eric Schmitz. We go on and on. I can name at least 10, 11 of those guys who, in terms of worth, are gunning for that $1 trillion mark. Elon Musk, recently in the news, it was said or reported that he has reached that benchmark, a trillionaire, and a trillionaire he's an individual trillionaire, not by some conglomerate or, a big group, hedge fund type group. Is I got it. No, he's Elon Musk, the trillionaire. Now, the thing about all this is that most of these guys, when you think about their net worth, we tend to forget or not think about why is that so important to them? Why these guys so driven? Is it really about wealth, or is it something not readily seen, comprehended, or understood by a lot of us? I'm pretty sure most of those guys realize why they're doing what they're doing. There are goals. There is an ulterior motive for the majority of them, I'm quite sure. And if you do your research, you'll find out what that is kind of quickly. Most of these individuals are involved in AI, artificial intelligence. Most of them have an idea of what they think the future should be, what it should consist of, and quite as it's kept, who should be in it, who should run it, right? Most of these guys are those types of guys. Again, you have the Peter Thiels. Oh my God, a very, in my opinion, sinister guy. Very sinister guy. Alex Karp, another one. Bill Gates. Bill Gates may be the oldest of all of them. I don't know. But, Sam Altman, all these guys have ulterior motives. They have what they call biotechnological programs, or not just programs, but also experiments taking place like we don't know of. Bill Gates, Microsoft, everyone knows Bill Gates. All of a sudden, he's into pharmaceuticals and vaccines. Bill Gates is predicting that there'll be viruses that will knock out hundreds of thousands of people. Most of these individuals who have these large sums of money, again, they have ulterior motives in the respect of what they think the future should look like. And not only that, but who should be in it, and who should decide whether or not this group or that group should be in it. Now, I think for a lot of people, that's kind of far-fetched. But again, when you look at and go back and do your research on a lot of these individuals, they'll tell you exactly who they are, what their ambition is, what their goals are. And not only that, but how they see the future. And as a result of such, they tend to partake and participate with politics. Most of these huge firms, these corporations, have they back political individuals, candidates, as well as senators and Congress people. They donate to them, sponsor whatever it is those individuals might have in the works for a project they want to do. So these billionaires, okay, yeah, we got you, but Senate bill so and such, such and such, SA1 is coming down the pipes, and we need to make sure that artificial intelligence has no restrictions, that they won't be banned. We need these data centers. We need this. We need to make sure there is nothing hindering our development. And so, boom, they're now involved in politics. You know, a lot of us think that, okay, these guys are just super rich, yeah, but behind that, what we don't see is their ambition in terms of how they think the world should be made up, what the future should look like as a result of their involvement in it. And they are really adamant about saying AI is the future. And without AI, humans won't have a future. And I'm like, why? How'd you come to that conclusion? You know, a lot of them tend to want to dabble in, this biotechnological advancement and experimentation. A lot of them are in fear that, hey, man, certain demographics won't last another 50 years. So therefore, they must find and figure out, discover ways to keep that demographic living another 50 to 100 years. And they swear by AI. They think that AI is the catalyst, is that which will help them to advance with the other, species, if that's acceptable, or, the other demographics, mostly the melanated. They hope to get along or go into the future with them. So it's not just about money. When we're talking about Larry Fink of BlackRock, Peter Thiel of Planeteer, Elon Musk of XAI and OpenAI, um, uh, Amodei of who created Claw as well as Anthropic. You got Bill Gates of Microsoft, Jensen Huang of Nvidia, excuse me, people, Nvidia, Mark Zuckerberg, of course, of Facebook and Meta. You have Alex Karp, also Planeteer, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Larry Ellison of Oracle Corporation. You have Mark Anderson Horowitz. This is some type of hedge fund group. These guys are super rich. They are involved in politics, heavily, I might add, heavily involved in politics. And you have Eric Schmidt, a former CEO of Google, who's also heavily involved in politics. Now, all these individuals I just named, you guys, are all connected to what they want to call um, future future building, future building by way of artificial intelligence. You know, as a result, though, most of us are starting to realize that artificial intelligence (AI) will do what they're saying it won't do, and that is to remove human beings from the workforce. We've seen that. We see it happening in real time. There's another thing that a lot of people have issue with in terms of AI, and that is the effect on the environment. So most people feel like, hey, wait a minute now, and if we allow all this shit, these data centers and the consumption of vast, amounts of water just to keep it going, what's going to happen to the ecosystem, or what's going to happen to our atmosphere, you know, um, our environment. How would that be affected? And for the most part, they can't answer that, but they do admit that, hey, yeah, large volumes of water will be consumed. How do you get this water back? How do you make sure that these lakes and these rivers, even the oceans where they want to be, before you know it, they'll be building these things in the ocean, if not standing on top of it, down on the ocean floor somewhere, just consuming vast amounts of water. So, this thing is bigger than just wealth. If you ask us here at TAP, we think it's about future building, um, how the world is controlled in terms of humanity and resources. At some point, wealth, if we don't, if you don't get it now, I think in the next 10, 15 years, um, it will be shut to those who don't have it, and only those who have it will be able to continue to accumulate it. You understand what I mean by that? Yeah. So to help us give me more context to this story, that we want you guys to be a part of, I have a clip as always, and I'm going to bring this clip into play. Before I do, please like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to TAP, because you are tapped in. Thank you for that. Your participation and viewership means a great deal. Okay, now Without further ado, let's get to this clip. Like I said, it's kind of important that we pay attention to what's going on around us. A lot of these billionaires and maybe 1 or 2 trillionaires, they have an ulterior motive. For the most part, we don't know what that is. Let's see if this clip can shed some light on this.
Today on Forbes, the 2026 AI 50 list, top artificial intelligence companies. Artificial intelligence has become part of our lives, increasingly core to how we work, search for information, and express ideas. In the last year, the startups spearheading this paradigm shift have raised gobs of money from venture firms to build applications used by hundreds of millions of people across professions like law, software engineering, banking, and even music. 3 years into the AI frenzy, startups are starting to prove they can turn lofty ideas into sustainable businesses. That's evident in Forbes' 8th annual AI 50 list, which spotlights the most promising privately held AI companies in the world. Juggernauts like OpenAI and Anthropic continue to be the largest companies on the list.
Now, excuse me. Now, OpenAI, again, and they are ran by, Sam Altman. He's one of the guys as well. Excuse me. As well as Elon Musk. There's an ulterior motive back there. And I think what they do is they paint this picture of development and how this development AI will be such a service to the people of the world, human beings. When most of us understand that won't be the case. In fact, there's a lot of data out saying that we must be careful in terms of developing AI. And the only way to guarantee that we are is to have restrictions on artificial intelligence. Now, Elon Musk is a proponent of that, as well as Amadei, who has Anthropic. They are in support of monitoring, regulating, and restricting the development of AI. However, everyone else that I named, except for maybe 1 or 2 other individuals, are against the regulation and restriction of artificial intelligence. They're saying it would damage, or it would not allow the human race, human beings, or mankind to advance if there are restrictions placed upon the development of AI. However, we don't think that's true. We think what they're saying is you're restricting our intellect, or where we think AI can take us. And don't mean us as a whole, the human race. No, us who are super rich, who wants to control the world. They need AI to be unfettered so that they can experiment and develop, new means and ways for artificial intelligence to get them further along. And also, I think, to use artificial intelligence as a barrier for those who are beneath them. It's my take on it.
Attracting unprecedented sums of cash from marquee Silicon Valley venture capitalists.
And also, again, every one of these corporations, these tech people, or these tech companies have vast sums of money. It boggles the mind. And these are just some here in America that I named. We're not talking about everywhere else around the globe, but I mean, more money, more than enough money to fix every problem on the face of the earth if they had chose to do that, but they don't. And this is why I say we must be wary of these individuals who are pushing for artificial intelligence to have this entrance into everyday human life. There is an ulterior motive behind it, and it's not beneficial, or as beneficial as they make out it to be.
And tech behemoths alike, as they reportedly head towards blockbuster IPOs. The 2 AI giants have accumulated a combined $242.6 billion in venture funding, about 80% of the total $305.6 billion that the companies on this year's AI 50 list have raised.
Now, I mentioned Anthropic, which is a part of Claude, where there was Claude first, and that developer or creator was Amodei, Darius Amodei. He had a contract last year with the Pentagon, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth. They had, I think, a $200 million contract, and Claude was being used in all federal departments in the government. Amodei decided to code or create AI in such a way to where it would be woke. Hegseth and Trump had issues with that and said, we don't want it woke. We want to be able to use it as a military application, as a security application in terms of, okay, it know how to, it goes look for the terrorists, and Amodei was explaining, but that's not how it's going to work out. It's not going to be able to differentiate a terrorist from a regular person. So no, I'm not going to create this AI system for you guys that won't be woke. So guess what Trump did? I'm going to sue you. In fact, all your Claude apps or, your apparatus that we use in the federal government, I'm removing all of it. I'm going to go, matter of fact, I'm going to go to OpenAI, which he did. And OpenAI took the contract. OpenAI is one of those AI tech companies that has no problem whatsoever, Sam Altman, with creating a system of artificial intelligence that isn't woke, that is involved in spying on citizens, that is involved in military applications, things of that nature. So this is some very dicey stuff we're dealing with. And kudos, by the way, to Amodei for standing his ground, standing on that square, standing on business, and not allowing Trump and Hegseth to bully him into creating a system or coding AI to where they can be able to dictate in that system what they want it to do. So kudos to Amodei for that.
Massive adoption of their tools has led to strong revenue growth. At the end of February, OpenAI reportedly had more than $25 billion in annualized revenue. And in early April, Anthropic said its revenue run rate had crossed $30 billion.
So they're both in a year making over 25 billion. Okay. In a year. That's the hey. All right.
And with products like Anthropic's Claude Code and OpenAI's Codex, the AI labs are dominating into markets like coding, where players like Cursor, which is valued at $29.3 billion, must innovate to compete. They're not the only ones training models. San Francisco-based Physical Intelligence has raised $1 billion in funding to train foundational models for robots by collecting data from human teleoperators that control humanoids in realistic environments like kitchens and bedrooms. French startup Mistral is selling its open-weight models not just to large corporations like Cisco, but also to European government agencies, for whom its local roots are a winning differentiator.
Now, I think also what needs to be expressed or explained to those of you who are tuned in is that most of these applications, most of these programs are not going to be there to serve, again, human beings. They're going to be there to monitor and police human beings. This is what, again, a lot of these developers or these CEOs of these AI corporations won't tell us. They're going into the business of spying, of policing, of security, of military, jobs that, again, human beings do. There was just a mention of robotics, cyborg programs and things like that coming into play. We already know Neuralink is already up and running. All right. So at some point we'll see the robots probably first, and then we'll see the cyborgs. But in any respect, these applications, these apparatuses will eventually take the jobs from human beings or take jobs from human beings that we've been known to do since, the industrial explosion, or so this is what's not being considered. We think about more than anything else how much money they make, and they put that out there purposely, to excite us, to the point where we're not really focusing. Okay, but what are they doing with this money? I mean, what is the real objective? What is the real objective? We also learned that most of these projects will be paid by taxpayer dollars. A lot of us don't realize that. A lot of these super big, super wealthy corporations, they will go to the government and in some way have the government have the taxpayer pay for the development of artificial intelligence. And if that doesn't work, or in fact, what they'll do first is start to tap into workers' 401ks as well as their retirement pensions. That's first, especially in the private sector. In fact, they're already doing that. They're already tapping in to workers' 401 and pensions. They're using that money to build this apparatus called artificial intelligence. And if that is not enough, and it won't be, it's not enough, they're going to go to the government and demand. Just think about that, because again, they write the laws. They actually, in our opinion here at TAP, decide who gets elected, decide what bills pass and what bills don't. That's the wealth aspect of it. But they'll make, enforce maybe even the government's arm or twist their arm to have them start to take money out of certain programs, out of certain, they already do that with, they already have this issue about Social Security and all that, the money not being enough and, taking from it to get it something else. They're going to do the same thing with people's 401ks and retirement pensions, but they're going to do it in the private sector first, and then they're going to do it using the government to take the money from the people to pay for these apparatuses. Yeah.
Cambridge-based AI startup Suno is coming for an entire creative field with its music generation models. Newcomer $8 billion valued Reflection is also building open source models to compete with Chinese companies like DeepSeek. It's one of 20 total newcomers, including $2.1 billion valued AI presentation builder Gamma, which crossed $100 million in annualized revenue with 50 employees. Another newcomer is 2-year-old $1.3 billion startup Chai Discovery that's using AI to create new medicines and speed up drug development. And another newcomer is New York-based Rogo, whose AI software is used by some 25,000 bankers and investors to crunch numbers. Former OpenAI CTO Mira Murati's Thinking Machine Labs, with $2 billion raised, and legendary Stanford computer science professor Fei-Fei Li's World Labs, which is focusing on spatial intelligence with more than $1 billion in funding, are both among 4 female-led companies on the list. Others include $4 billion valued Fireworks AI, which helps developers get access to the latest and greatest models without worrying about the technical backend. The AI landscape has dramatically evolved over the last 12 months. 3 startups on the 2025 edition of the AI 50 list were acquired or acqui-hired by tech giants. Data labeling startup Scale AI's CEO and co-founder Alexander Wang left to start Meta's Superintelligence Lab. Elon Musk's AI startup xAI was scooped up by SpaceX, creating a combined entity worth $1.25 trillion. And Google paid $2.4 billion to hire AI coding startup Windsurf's co-founders and license its technology. The $10 billion valued coding agent startup Cognition, which made its debut on the AI 50 list this year, acquired the rest of Windsurf.
Now, I think if we, again, pay close enough attention, we'll see the pattern here. And the pattern is to corral all AI technology or AI technology that is fairly new to see whether or not it's not only compatible, but can enhance what's already in existence. So they go and get these young tech savvy individuals and they buy them out or whatever the case they whatever it is. If they don't buy them out, they'll bring them in, meld them with what is already in place. But I think the point is to get the market, especially here in America, regarding AI development, corner the market, control it so that no outsiders, if you aren't already established, can get any leverage or a foothold in this new game. So when we're talking about, again, when we're talking about these billionaires, these trillionaires, we only talk about them or discuss them in terms of dollars. We don't really get to the core issue of who they are and what their objective really is. If it, it's pretty much about money, but at the same time, it's also about how they're going to use this money, what they're going to use the money on, and why. You could throw in when as well, but we know that by 2040, they would have needed about $68 trillion to really see this AI apparatus, the infrastructure in full effect, and that's what's scary again, because there's so much about artificial intelligence that we know very little of. And they're, actually experimenting on researching nilly-willy, they're really, this is a whole new frontier. And this is why you get certain individuals who are very cautious in terms of that technology's development and say, hey, we don't really know what we're doing. This is a first. You mess around and before you know it, we'll be fighting the machines, But yeah, when we're talking about this, we have to talk about or discuss those individuals involved in this. Again, what their net worth is, what is or what may be their plan in terms of this network, what are their ambitions, what are their goals, and how do those ambitions and goals serve the human race? And I think that's when we'll discover, especially when it comes to a lot of these guys, whether or not they are for the human race, rather than their own ideologies about how the future should look or how it should be coupled, or there should be this coexistence between machines and man. It's very profound if you think about it. Okay, what are these guys really thinking about, and how will all this affect the earth in the next 10 years? Something to think about. But that's it for that piece. Again, these individuals are very, very rich. These individuals have a lot in common in terms of how they see the future. They are future building. That's what they're doing. And use that phrase, say it out loud to yourself and think about it. Future building. What would that entail? Well, why is that? What would it be about? Is the next question we should ask ourselves. How will future building benefit us as human beings? Okay. Your thoughts are more than appreciated if you drop them in the comments. Let me have a look-see at them and maybe even respond to the majority of them. Put your thoughts in the comments. Let's have this discussion. Do you think that these guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 individuals are a threat to humanity, or they're a benefit to the human race? Let me know what you think. Until next time, take care of yourselves and one another.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.